All right, folks, we're gonna get going here. Welcome to the 2020 Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Virtual Conference. We are so excited to have you all here today. And thanks in advance for sitting with us and being patient as we figure out the technology to host a close to 300-person Zoom call. We're so grateful that you made the time to show up to this today, and hope that we can connect about some really important and exciting work happening in farm to school and early care right now, this summer, and then again into the fall. Nathan will be advancing our slides today, and we're going to start off with a quick overview of Zoom. Nathan, if you could go to the next slide. All right. So everyone should be automatically muted. Please pay attention to that throughout the conference today so that we can get the best audio. One thing to check out is in the top right corner of your Zoom box, there's a couple of viewing options: speaker view or gallery view. Speaker view will allow you to see one enlarged face, and that will be useful especially during our presentations, our mini presentations from across the state later in the call. And then gallery view allows you to look at everyone's face at the same time. So play with that to figure out what a comfortable view is for you. This meeting is being recorded, and we'll post it online after we do closed captioning on it. So you'll be able to reference back, and all of the slides will be shared afterwards with active links. So anything that you see on our slides today, you will have access to after the conference. And then lastly, we ask that if you have questions throughout the call, to use the chat box. On the Zoom toolbar, there is a little bubble that says chat, and you should be able to click on that and either message the entire group or message individuals who you have specific questions for. This will be important for our DHS credit process, and we'll talk more about that in a couple minutes. Next slide, please. I wanted to show how exciting it is that we have folks coming from all over the country actually joining our call today. So we had almost 300 folks registered to attend the conference today from 6 different states. So we're really excited to share a lot of context about our work in Iowa, and then hopefully connect with and hear questions from folks who are out of state and from across the state as well. Here's a quick overview of our agenda for today. We're going to start off hearing some instructional information about DHS credits and subgrant awards. Then we'll learn about the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Coalition. We'll have some exciting presentations from across the state from 4 folks who are doing farm to school and early care work in Iowa. These folks had submitted really great applications to present at our in-person conference, which was changed into this virtual conference. So we're really excited to have them participate today. And then the last portion of our call, we'll be diving into some resources and best practices around planning for Farm to School Month, which is in October, and planning all of the exciting events and activities that come with that in the midst of COVID. So looking forward to that discussion as well. I'm going to hand it off to Krista Smith, who will explain the DHS credit process for this call. So if you're requesting DHS credit, listen into these instructions.
Thank you, Chelsea. I'm Krista Smith. I work at the Iowa Association for the Education of Young Children. We're the training organization that will be giving out the certificates. So if you have any questions, and this isn't on the slide, but if you have any questions specific to the credit, send me a private message in the chat, because I'd hate to miss it if it gets mixed with everything else. So If you do have any questions about that, feel free to send that to me. Most of you, it looks like a lot of you anyway, have already checked in. Those of you that want credit, if you haven't already, please type your name in the chat box as you want it to appear on your certificate, and then include hashtag DHS. That's really important because that's going to flag yours as one that is going to want the credit and need a certificate. I'll need you to respond to all the polls and questions that will be placed to you throughout the conference. If there's a question to everybody, make sure that you answer that as well. They're not going to be specific necessarily, just to your group. So make sure that you answer anything that's asked. And again, follow that by hashtag DHS. Again, super important to include that on there. If you answer and forget to put it on there, feel free to answer again and include it, the hashtag DHS the next time. And then at the conclusion of the conference, do not leave without signing out. Just type sign out or signing off or whatever. And then again, the hashtag DHS in the chat box. So we'll need, in order to get credit, of course, you know, face to face, we can see you, we know you're participating, we know that you're there. So we just want to make sure that you're doing the same virtually. It's a little bit more difficult to monitor that. So we're just trying to find all the ways that we can do that to be sure that you get the credit that you deserve for joining us today. So make sure that you do all of those things. Check in if you haven't. Respond to all the polls and questions throughout the conference, and make sure that at the conclusion of the conference, before you leave, type sign out and then hashtag DHS. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, if you have questions, feel free to send me a private message.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Patty Delger, the Team Nutrition Co-Director at the Iowa Department of Education. I'm going to talk a little bit about the subgrants that we're able to offer through this virtual conference, and we're thrilled to do that. We have 10 CACFP Farm to ECE subgrants to offer. Requirements to apply include participating in the Child and Adult Care Food Program and participating in this conference. Your planned subgrant activities and expenses should support the Farm to ECE work, and all expenses should fit within the allowable expenditures, and you must also register for the Iowa Local Food Stay. We are going to offer 5 $350 subgrants to centers and 5 $100 subgrants to child care homes. So I hope you all intend to apply for those. The applications will be scored on a competitive basis, so please submit a thorough and complete application. Your activities could include offering local foods in meals and snacks, establishing a small garden, engaging families in local food access and education, or perhaps purchasing curricula, activities, or books related to gardens. Applications are due to me via email by July 10th to be considered. The announcement of the 10 awards will be made the week of July 13th. You will be paid for the subgrants after you submit a short report and 2 photos of activities on or before October 23rd. And you will today receive the application for the subgrant via email at the conclusion of this conference. So please let me know if you have any questions, and I hope to see a lot of applications. Thank you so much and enjoy the conference. Back to Chelsea.
I'm going to
Right,
take
thanks,
over.
Patty.
Right.
Pass it to Nathan.
Great.
Nathan,
Awesome.
before you do, can I just add something really quickly? This is Krista again. One thing that I didn't say is that the email that you gave us for DHS credit is when you registered, is the email that your certificate will be sent to with the name that you're providing on the chat box check-in. So if that email is different, if anything has changed, please be sure to let me know. But otherwise, that is the email that will be used to send your certificate. Okay. Sorry, Nathan. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Krista. So I'm going to be spending some time talking about Iowa Farm to School and early care in Iowa. But before I do that, first, my name is Nathan Spalding. I'm the Iowa Program Manager for Food Corps. I manage our 10 Food Corps AmeriCorps service members around the state who are delivering farm to school in elementary schools. Before I talk about the network and the coalition and what all is going on, I just want to first wish everyone a happy Juneteenth. For anyone who doesn't know, today is Juneteenth. June 19th is in 1865. June 19th was when one of the last group of enslaved people in Galveston, Texas were liberated from slavery. And that was 2.5 years almost after slavery had ended. So today is a really important day among the Black community in our nation to recognize the freedom of Black folks in this country, and I think holds a lot of special weight this year as we are in the midst of a really incredible civil rights moment, and wanting to just call attention to that before we sit here and talk for 2 hours without recognizing anything that's going on. I think it's so important to pause and think about farm to school and early care and how much systemic racism has contributed to the need for farm to school and early care. All of our systems in our country were created during slavery, have persisted with racism and with systemic racism, and our work will never be complete until we address systemic racism in education, in agriculture, in our food system, in our policing system, in our prison system. So just want to call attention to that before we talk about the work that we do, because I think we should really, especially today, be thinking a lot about that and reflecting and centering what we do around anti-racism work. So the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care group, there are really kind of two facets of this. There's the larger network and a coalition. The network is everybody on this call and more. The network is all of the folks in the state, both recipients and practitioners of farm to school and early care. These are students, these are community members, these are teachers, these are early care sites. This is everybody. These are farmers. And that's all of us. We are all in this network in the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Network. Back in January, we merged the Iowa Farm to School Coalition with the Iowa Farm to Early Care Coalition, or the Iowa Farm to ECE, Early Care and Education Coalition, to form this newly integrated Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Coalition. The coalition is an organization of folks from state agencies and nonprofits and school districts and Iowa State Extension, who we are both guiding, but also being guided by the work that is happening in communities in the larger network. So just want to give you all kind of an overview of what this newly formed coalition is, what this network means, how you interact with it, how we function, and how you can potentially get involved. So these are a list of some of the organizations that are involved with the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Conference. I am sure there are more people on here where you're not seeing a logo, but it's a really broad group of folks from lots of different sectors and different agencies and nonprofits and schools and organizations coming together to listen to what you all want and trying to match our resources and collaborate together to provide professional development opportunities, resources, systems change work, policy work, however it fits into what you all need.
Hey, this is Janice.
That is what we are all about. So here are our mission and our vision. I will just read these for anyone who maybe can't see the screen. Our mission is to increase access to locally grown food and food education for children and families by building cross-sector partnerships to advance programs and policies in schools, early care settings, and the food system. Our vision is for farm to school and early care programs in Iowa to be rooted in just and strong local and regional food systems, ensuring the health and wellness of all our children and families, the strength of family farms, and the resilience of our communities. So that's our mission and vision. That's what we believe in. That's what we are striving for as a coalition and along with this broader network. And here's some of our core values around education, equity, access, transparency, relationships and collaboration, and respect. These are the things that are guiding us in our work. These are the things that hold us accountable to communities and what you all want. Yeah, so that's our structure. That's the real work of the coalition, where it really gets into community work, is around these strategy teams. Our coalition has 3 strategy teams that are focused on sort of 3 areas of our work: local procurement, food education, and network development. So we have groups from the coalition who are working on each of these areas. They meet once a month for about an hour to an hour and a half to work on different strategies and objectives that help meet the goals listed on the screen. So local procurement is all about increasing local food purchasing in schools and early care sites. Food education is all about incorporating culturally responsive food education into existing policies, environments, and curriculum. And then network development is all about growing and strengthening this statewide network in order to increase the communication and collaboration across this really incredible, robust network of folks doing awesome work. So there will be moments later in this call when you'll hear a little bit more about each of these strategy teams and the work that is going on. I think what is so special about these strategy teams is these are really engagement points for more folks in the network. You know, the coalition is a lot of organizations whose roles include farm to school, or they have funds to contribute to that, or they influence the programs, statewide programs. And a lot of the work, though, needs to be done with communities. And this is an engagement point, I think, for folks who maybe it doesn't make sense to attend an every other month full day meeting with the coalition, but it might make more sense to attend a once a month, 1 hour meeting to talk about the actual work that you could both benefit from and contribute to relating to farm to school and early care. So there's some new ways to connect with us. So we have a new coalition email. It's info@iowafarmtoschool.earlycare.org. It's a long one, but that is the email that myself, Krista Smith, and Chelsea Chris will be monitoring to answer any questions you might have and to figure out how we might be able to connect you to more folks in the larger network or with a strategy team. We will also have a new network email list where if you have a question, you want to go out to this group of people on the call and folks who can't make it on the call, you would be able to email network@iowafarmtoschool.earlycare.org to offer up resources or gauge interest in something or share information. So those will be 2 emails that we'll make sure to share out this information after this call and in future communications, so you know how to get in touch. Some things to look forward to: we have a new logo, website, and newsletter coming soon that is hopefully going to help sort of, you'll be able to recognize who this network is, who this coalition is when you notice our work. And we'll be creating a Google form where if you want to be involved in one of those strategy teams that is doing more of the work from month to month, if it makes sense for you to be on that or you're interested, we'll have a Google form where you can indicate interest and be added to those email groups and to those meetings. So I think that's all from me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nathan, for that great overview. And again, we will follow up after the conference today with opportunities to connect you immediately to our webpage and our listserv so that you can get all of this new information as it comes out. All right, next we'll be moving into our mini presentations from around the state. We have 4 folks on the line all across Iowa who work in farm to school and early care, actively developing programs and policies and leading activities daily. And these folks are going to do 10-minute presentations each. I'm sure they have enough information to fill the 10 minutes of presenting. So if you have questions for them, please put them in the chat box. And after the presenters have shared, we'll ask them to respond to those questions through the chat box. We're going to start off with Jen Ransom-Getch from Des Moines Public Schools, and she's going to share with us about their programming in Des Moines.
All right, so let me share my screen. This is the most challenging part of today, I think.
Nathan, I think if you stop sharing, yes. There you go.
Okay, can you guys see mine?
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet?
No.
What did I do, guys? Oh, I always forget to
Push the
finish that share.
Yes. Great.
Are we good now? Perfect. All right, so like Chelsea said, my name is Jen Ransom Gatch. I just had a name change, so most of you know me as Jen Ransom, but I am Jen Gatch, and I am the Des Moines Public Schools Nutrition Grant Specialist. So today, just a little real quick overview at what what I'm gonna discuss, just farm to school at a glance right here. So we do have about 20 different school gardens in Des Moines. Not all 20 of those are active right now, but we do have space that 20 different school gardens are there. We do have 3 Food Corps service members, and they serve at 6 different elementary schools. And each of those schools are lucky enough to have a garden. Taste tests happen in the cafeteria through the Farm to School program. Hands-on learning is a big thing for us. We do have a hydroponic garden, and I will show you somewhat of a picture of that later. And then we do have a really supportive food service team and chefs. And then these are some of our Food Corps service members. Okay, so here are some of our garden spaces. And while I go through some of the next few slides, think about what might be missing in these pictures. So our Food Corps service members have been very active in our gardening, and they are the ones who really maintain those 6 garden spaces at their 6 elementary schools. And they've done a really good job with the overhaul and creating and just really expanding the garden spaces. I wish I had some before pictures of these two, because you can totally see the difference, but I do have a really good transformation on the next screen. But this one, we decided to replace all of the old beds last year and then make 6 big beds so that students can be out there, and it's very inviting and it's manageable for them to walk through this garden space. This one we will talk about here in a minute. I really enjoy this outdoor classroom area to do some farm to school work, and you're going to see a few pictures of how those are used here in a little bit. This one literally just got put up yesterday, so I had the pleasure of hauling like 56 bags of soil with one of my Food Corps service members, and it was a lot of fun to see the picture when she sent it to me last night of how it turned out. And then here are some more established gardens that have been there for a little while. So here's a big transformation that happened in the last year. This garden got transformed or moved last summer so it can incorporate a walking path that was where the garden used to be. So this was a overgrown 135-foot by 50 feet space of grassland. My amazing service member, Kennedy, she took the liberty of, we found somebody to mow it down, and she was able to put all of these beds in, and she is creating a walking path so that it's inviting for the students. Mulch is going to go in between these stepping stones. And then, so the goal is, or the thought process is, that each section or each grade level would have 2 of these garden beds each. So we have 4 sections at this school, and so each section or each classroom could have about a half of a bed at this time. It can be expanded double to basically over here, so that each classroom eventually will have their own bed. So then, what were all of these garden spaces missing? The students. So as wonderful as it is to have beautiful garden spaces, we need to be able to put students in there so that they can learn and have that experience. So this picture is of Kennedy at one of her elementary schools, and this was a project they did, or a lesson they did, where they brought all the kids out and they did 15 minutes of yoga. And these yoga mats were purchased through a grant from 5210. So we thank you guys at 5210 for these. And so they were able to experience the garden in a different way and get excited about how they can incorporate, farm to school and garden life into their daily activities. and then they did a salsa making activity after this. So it was one big 60-minute lesson where they started with yoga and then they did a salsa making. So hands-on learning is what is important about these gardens. It's not just to have a garden, but use in ways that students are learning where the food comes from. Students are able to go into our garden to expand their learning on the life cycles of plants and how to put a garden to bed at the end of season. I've had conversations in the last month with principals who have discussed pollination lessons for upcoming years and how the garden will be a great place for students to expand this learning rather than just in the classroom setting. And so some of these pictures represent some of the ways that we've had some of this hands-on learning. And throughout this presentation, you will see that I have kind of scribbled out faces. I wasn't 100% sure if they were okay to be seen. So the students that are colored out, that is because I don't know if we have their permission, and I don't want to be putting students' faces on here that can't be shown. So right here, these students are doing an after-school activity, and they are picking strawberries out of their garden. And then what's really exciting is that they got to not only pick them, but then feel them, see them, discuss them, and then eventually they all got to wash them and taste them. And so that was a really cool experience for them to be able to see it from when it first got put in their garden to when they got to put it in their mouths and eat it. This was the salsa lesson that was incorporated with the yoga lesson. And so those benches that I showed you in that first screen, this is what we use those benches for, or those desks for, in that outdoor space. So students are able to, use this space to pick like the tomatoes off the plants and then actually cut it on here and then make it into a product that they can use for their school. This was a lesson that they were able to feel, discuss, and then eventually taste the lettuce into a salad. And this is just a fun picture that we can show all the different types of flowers and plants that we can educate our students on. So it is important to understand that while gardens are wonderful to have, they are not necessary to have a farm to school program in your school. And so basically the rest of this presentation is going to show you that even if you don't have a garden, it doesn't mean that you cannot be teaching your students farm to school and where food comes from. So these are examples of ways we've incorporated farm to school in some of our Des Moines schools inside. So right here, Ms. Piper is showing, she was discussing pineapple, where pineapple came from. And at first I didn't think this was going to be as relevant because I thought, oh, people are going to think it's not local. And then I saw somebody from Hawaii is on here. So here you go. That is local to you guys. So Ms. Piper was able to explain that not all fruits can be grown, where we live, but it has to travel and that farm to school process still has to take place. Here's Miss Emma. She's doing a after school cooking club where students got to experience not only learning about the foods, but then also taking their hand in actually cooking it. This one I really enjoyed because this is a taste test for multiple different apples. And what I really enjoyed about this lesson is that not only did they discuss the type of apple, but they discussed the color, the taste, and then what it looked like. So I was really excited to see this. And then these are all, I believe, votes on who liked what apple. And then Miss Micah right here, she's teaching about beans. And what I really enjoyed about this lesson was she incorporated into something the teacher was already teaching about. And, we stood outside the classroom for a few minutes before it was time for her to go in to do her lesson. And she heard that the teacher was counting, this is a kindergarten class, and the teacher was up to, I think, 96. And so Miss Micah had a bag of beans that she was going to teach about. And so she incorporated that into what the students were just learning about, which was counting to the number 96. And then while she was getting taste tests done for them, she also had them do an age-appropriate activity, which was coloring a bean just to have that lesson embedded in their brain. So it's like a hands-on activity that we like to do. So an important thing for you to do a farm to school activity or a farm to school, incorporating farm to school into your buildings is to have the support from others. So some of our food corps members really partner with other teachers that, you know, are also excited about farm to school. One Spanish teacher at one school had hands-on learning with one of our members or service members to teach about Central and South American cuisine. These students then were able to help cut up the vegetables, fruits, and herbs, and they learned about the significance of Amani and mesa flour in Latin foods. And these foods were like pozole, black bean tacos, and they were able to, like I said, help prepare it and then eat it, which really incorporated that learning. Art schools at several teachers or at several schools partner with food corps service members to do art projects for the gardens. And this will just help the students be able to have that hands-on experience and be able to see what they've done and what they've created out into the garden. So it helps create that understanding and excitement for them to go out and learn. And then school-wide support is important to make a farm to school a success. Incorporating it into something that's already being done could be one way to get a school as part of a school-wide culture. At one back to school night this past year, students were able to try cherry tomatoes growing in the school garden, along with some mozzarella and locally grown basil. At least 20 of these students said they had never tasted tomatoes, which seems, you know, sometimes seems basic, but it's those things that, you know, farm to school and just incorporating it into something that, you know, parents and students are already going to be there to have them have that learning experience. Some kindergartners and first grade students were able to learn about foods that help our bodies feel our best when packed with nutrients and vitamins, and they were able to make different fruit salsas for the whole school to try during their lunches. So that's some ways that we incorporate it in our school. This was a taste test with the lettuce and the herbs that were growing on our tower garden or our hydroponics. And so the step one, it says take a sample, step two, taste, and then step three, vote. So that's what we always do. We have them taste it and then vote. This was just incorporated into one of our healthy activities. We just partnered with a couple of schools and just asked if we could be part of their recess to be handing out some of this, you know, fun watermelon during their, I think it was Action for Healthy Kid Week. So every Kid Hungry Week. Miss Kennedy here, she was doing some green smoothies for both parents and children to have them taste at a trunk or treat. We do taste tests throughout schools, and this event was students helped make soups, and then they incorporate it with their reading program that night. We do have great support from our food service. Here's Chef Chad. He always does Iowa Local Foods Day, and so this last year we did apple crisp, which is right here, and that actually, those apples actually came from one of our elementary schools at King Elementary. So the entire school district got to eat apple crisp made from those apples. And then we also, as you can see here, had turkey from different farms, black bean from different farms that went into the chili. And then, so we really promoted the Iowa Local Foods Day. And then our food service staff still helps with some of those taste tests. So that's what they did here. And then we have some, they supported this taste test with some sugar snap peas. Challenges. So this presentation is about opportunities, but also challenges. So connecting authentically with teachers, you know, finding that connection and, you know, being able to connect with them has been a little bit of a challenge. If working with multiple buildings, management styles may differ. So just knowing how to work with those principals and administrators at those buildings to make it a positive environment and a positive experience. Feeling of belonging and the importance of this work. You know, I know that schools are very rigid in their like math, English, science, but making sure that they understand the importance of this work so that you can incorporate it into different lessons. Estimating how much food for different events is a challenge. And so just, you know, figuring out how many people are going to be there and then maybe anticipating a little bit more so that you don't run out. Classroom management skills, especially from our food corps members, has been, they've said it was a challenge just to understand how to incorporate it into the teacher's daily work, which I think they've truly done a fantastic job in Des Moines. And then COVID-19 proved to be a challenge this year, but also gave us opportunities on how to move forward when things like this happens. We had a service member who created a cookbook for For students, we had virtual lessons, so we're still working through some of those, which will just help us in the future as we transition to next school year. And I know Susie Wilson's going to be talking a lot about COVID-19, I believe, and how schools have overcome that. And then recommendations and considerations, find what is needed that week or month and tackle that. And this kind of went with the COVID-19, and what we found was easier to tackle, like not to look too far ahead, but figure out what is happening that week or month. Find those programs or lessons that are already happening to add on to the school, and add a farm to school lesson for that. You don't have to have a garden to do farm to school activities. Find that champion in the building that will bridge that connection and help you get the farm to school started in your schools. Look for funding opportunities. Like I said, we use 5210 funding. We've had a lot of United Way funding, and then we've also used some Pick a Better snack funding with the farm to school PES work. And the other recommendation, make sure you have enough room in your vehicle to transport everything if you have the means to do it, and then love what you are doing. So that is what we are doing at Des Moines. I hope this wasn't too fast or rushed, but I had a lot of pictures and fun pictures to get through.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. Everyone a thumbs up to Jen for her presentation. Great. The chat box is alive, so if you have questions for Jen, please post them in there. And our next presenter is Anita Schukert from Little Steps and Beyond Daycare. This would be a great time in the Zoom meeting to check out that view option in the top right of your box. And if you see a bunch of our faces right now, click where it says speaker view and it will highlight one face. And this will be Anita's face. Anita, are you unmuted?
Thing ever. Right. She can make like a.
Kelsey, you're not muted.
I'm unmuted.
I remuted myself. I'm so sorry.
Anita, are you with us?
Okay.
I know I saw her on earlier.
I am trying to figure out how to. Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes, but you're very modeled. It's hard to hear you. If you have headphones on, try to disconnect them and reconnect them. I've had that issue before. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Okay. Maybe we'll come back to Anita and ask Caitlin Schuerman from Waukee Community School District to go next.
Yes, perfect. I will share my screen.
Excellent.
Alrighty, can you see it okay?
Yep, it looks good.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Caitlin Sharman. I'm the dietitian for Waukee Nutrition Services. And I apologize, I'm outside because my toddler is going down for a nap, so she's noisy. So there might be some car noise in the background. So I just wanted to share today about our Farm to School program and the work that we're doing in Waukee. So our Farm to School vision in Waukee is cultivating opportunities for students and the community to interact with the local food system. And then our three core focus areas are nutrition education, hands-on agricultural experiences, and local procurement. And we really chose hands-on agricultural experiences because we know many of our buildings may not be quite ready to jump into a garden because there is a lot of commitment with that. And so giving them the opportunity to explore other avenues to do growing or to do that educational piece, but not necessarily commit to a full garden. So we do have a farm to school committee, and this was set up through our USDA grant, farm to school grant that we received in 2018. We are currently still under our planning grant right now, and that's been extended another year for us due to COVID-19, so we're very grateful for that. But through that, we got our committee, and we have many different sectors represented on our committee, which gives us a really great pool of people to go to when we need feedback or we need new ideas, because they just have such a wide array of experiences. So we really are grateful for these people and all of the great input that they can offer for us. So kind of short-term goals with our farm to school grant and our program in general. With procurement, we are working to implement a Harvest of the Month program this year, working with Farm Table Delivery, which is our local food hub, and I saw Ellen was on here, and we're very grateful for her team and the work that they do, because it really allows us to do that procurement on a large scale that like we need to with 11,600 students and growing. We also participate in Iowa Local Food Day each year, so we plan to continue that event. And then with garden and hands-on agricultural opportunities, we want to continue to provide that support for school gardens and classroom learning with our grant and just with our department in general. And then with curriculum and education, we want to continue to connect our educators to opportunities for students to engage in learning about local food production and the environment. So kind of beyond the next couple of years, what we're looking to do is to work with our produce distributor to try to carry more local options and make those options available for DoD commodity dollar use. We know schools that get these commodity dollars each year, and by being able to purchase local product with those dollars, it could help to support their farm to school work too, and make it a little bit more cost effective for schools who are newer to this. We also plan to continue to utilize our local food hubs to purchase the large quantities of produce we need on a more regular basis, which would include integrating these local options into our regular menu cycle. And then also we'd like to connect with more local producers to open up market opportunities for them. As far as hands-on ag experiences, we're looking to build a greenhouse in the district kind of in the long term. To support curriculum and engage students, and then also providing, again, that support for school gardens and procurement. We continue to plan to continue that work. And then curriculum and education, our committee has expressed a desire for farm to school education to be both cumulative and integrated throughout all levels in our district, which we know is a big task, but we would really like to see that where students are getting a piece of farm to school at every step of the way while they're with us. And then also having schools and classrooms collaborate with our department to do purchasing of local foods for celebrations or nutrition education and different events. So I'll kind of walk you through our current hands-on experiences that are happening in our district. So there's a picture, and then below the picture is the goal or kind of mission that garden has set for itself. So we ask the core teams when they come to us asking to use some of our USDA grant funding that they create a vision or mission for their garden. So they kind of have that focus point as they go forward. So Walnut Hills Elementary has a raised bed garden, and then Easton Elementary has a tower garden, and they also have a rooftop container garden, which was a really interesting concept for us. And their focus is on urban agriculture and teaching kids how to grow in the spaces that they live in, since many of our students live in a suburban area and don't have access to lots of land space. And then We Warriors is our early care program, and their They have a couple of container gardens. They are located in 2 separate buildings. I apologize, there's a skid loader going by. Schuler Elementary has a raised bed and a tower garden. So they kind of went both with a traditional garden and trying something a little bit newer and innovative with their building. So what we've done with our program, we've done a lot of outreach to families. So last year we had booths at our elementary schools that had gardens or have expressed interest in starting a garden. And with that, we served local carrots from the garden at Walnut Hills to families. And then we did a local corn and black bean salsa with products from Farm Table Delivery at Schuler Elementary. And then Easton and Brookview had more just informational tables for families. But one piece we had at those 2 tables was in family interest sign-up sheet. So if a parent was interested in volunteering with the garden, they could sign up there. And it sort of starts to build that team at the building where you have parents getting involved. And then Brookview had their ESL night last October, and so we did a sampling of local yogurt. We know a lot of our families that are in our ESL program have an agricultural background, and so trying to further connect those families to the schools was really important for us. So taste test experiences, we do those as well in our cafeterias, and they're always a fun way to get kids engaged. So during local food, like local food day the week of, we partnered with Eat Greater Des Moines and ISU Extension to bring blender bikes out to our schools and to have students get to try a fruit slushie that featured local aronia berries. So that was a lot of fun, and the kids really enjoyed getting to try something something that was a little bit outside the normal. And then we also brought blender bikes to our Switch engagement events. So we had 2 schools participate in Switch last year, which stands for Student Wellness Intervention Targeting Child Health. And this is a program that's offered through ISU Extension. And so we featured ranch veggie dip that was made with local yogurt at one of our events. And then the other event, we didn't get to use any local products, but they did do a tomato salsa in the blender bike. So that's one way we've started to integrate our farm to school efforts in with our wellness efforts at our buildings. And then we had Farm to Summer last year. We participated in the statewide campaign, and we partnered with Walnut Hills' Raised Bed Garden to provide snap peas for the Snap for Snap Peas campaign. So that was a lot of fun, and the kids really enjoyed getting to do taste testing. And then we also partnered with ISU Extension and Dallas County Public Health to do the nutrition education piece at the sites. So that was a really awesome campaign, and we participated again this year, and it's a lot of fun for us. Then we have also partnered with our early care sites. So during Healthy Estate Month, they participated in the weekly activities that were put out by 5210. So during the 0 week, so 0 sugary drinks, they did infused waters with the kids. And so we decided to pull in a local element there, and we did locally sourced cucumbers and mint, and we procured those from Farm Table Delivery again. So the kids really enjoyed just getting to try water and learn about making healthy choices with that local twist. And then Iowa Local Food Day. So in this past fall, these are the items that we procured locally. We did expand our celebration significantly from 2018, where we just did apples and I'm blanking on the other. We only did one other item local in that year. So we really tried to expand it out and do something that was district-wide this past year. So that was a lot of fun for us. And the roasted Cajun sweet potatoes you see in the upper right-hand corner was actually a recipe that we taste tested in 2018 at the high school. And then this year we actually menued it at all of our secondary buildings. So it was kind of fun to see the transition from just taste testing to moving to actually menuing an item. And then the school garden checklist, this is a resource we developed as kind of a protocol for our new gardens. And this is what I was talking about when we ask gardens to create their vision and mission for their garden. So this is something that we've implemented with a couple of our new schools. And we've really found that it kind of helps them to solidify their ideas and give them some more concreteness to putting together a garden. So the checklist itself covers building a team, garden design, funds management, and curriculum integration, and then also the maintenance piece, which is really huge for a garden. And then we have just developed a farm to school lesson request form. So this will be for our teachers to be able to use to submit requests for classroom lessons for guest speakers, or if they want to set up a field trip, all related to farm to school in some sense. And so this will help us with tracking those requests so we kind of can get an idea of how many of those hands-on opportunities we're offering. And then also just to give that streamlined place, so it will go to one person and then that person can then share it out with organizations who may be able to provide those opportunities. So we're working with Dallas County Ag in the Classroom, and then ISU Extension and our Waukee Apex program will kind of be our main organizations where we're starting with where to go to offer these opportunities. So that's very briefly the work that we're doing. So this is my contact information. Jeannie is our Director of Nutrition Services, and then Jennifer Walters is our Farm to School independent contractor. So she's been working with us on facilitating our grant and kind of helping us to walk through some of those planning pieces. So that's all I've got.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Caitlin. Thumbs up for a great presentation. Look forward to next June when, fingers crossed, we can host an in-person conference. We will be working with Caitlin and the folks at Waukee to host the conference there. So you'll get to see everything that she was just talking about live in person. All right. So now I see Anita using a Zoom alias of Beth. Anita, do you want to try speaking and see if we have you connected?
Okay. So how does that sound? Good now.
We still can't quite make it out.
Can you hear
I have
me?
no idea.
We can see you.
It might be best if she shuts off her video because that sometimes slows it down, but we could still hear her. But if she turn off her camera, that might help.
Hey, don't jump it.
How about that, Anita?
Can
Yeah,
you hear better?
Yeah, yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, but I've got things to show on the screen. Yeah, but you won't be able to see the stuff I have to show screen.
Right.
That's the only problem. I'm sorry, I don't know what to do.
How about we,
This is not.
yeah, this is what happens. We're trying things out.
And,
How about we go to Kelsey with GCB and do their presentation, and we'll troubleshoot on the side to figure out how to make this work. Try one more time. I will message you, okay?
yeah,
All right.
Okay, hey everyone. Chelsea, you want us to start now? Is that all right?
Yes, that's great. Thanks, Kelsey.
Okay, so we're out here with some of our GCs. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop my video. And lovely Tawny is out here filming us. And this is Lily Hoover. She's one of our 6th grade students. And we want you to learn a little bit about bees today. And in terms of making sure that you know the difference between brood and honey, and also the difference between a brood box and a honey super. And there's so much that we could go into, but just for 10 minutes sake, we'll keep it short. So Lil, come on over here. We've taken out one of our frames and put it into an observation hive. And so this is really nice because the kids can't put their hands on the bees and they can still see everything that's going on. So Lil, will you show them what they're looking at here? What are they looking at?
Brood.
The brood is all of this like orangish brown capped things here. And then inside of some of these cells,
One second, Kelsey, can you pause for 1 second? Because you're speaking from your phone, we're seeing just your name screen. So if everyone can look through the boxes and find Tawny's iPhone.
Oh, I see.
And you can click on the blue box with 3 dots to pin that video. And that should show you an up-close picture of the bees. And we'll still be able to hear Kelsey as she's sharing information about them.
Thanks, Chelsea. Okay, so again, we'll just go through here. So all of these orangish bubbles that you see here, those are all capped brood. So that means that there's little tiny baby bees inside of there that are ready to hatch in a couple of days. And then kind of over here, if you can see where it's glistening and black, that is where the honey is at. And let's see, there are mostly worker bees in here, but Lil, can you find a drone? A worker bee is a female bee. Here's a drone right here. He has big eyes because he needs to be able to see the queen in order to mate with her. And that's really the only reason for a drone. And we don't have the queen in here right now. But that's pretty cool to see there. And we'll come over to one of our hives and show you inside of what the inside looks like. So on most of our hives, we have 2 boxes. Those are brood boxes. That's where the So I'm gonna crack it open.
Kelsey, your audio is breaking up a little bit. Can you say the sentence that you just said?
I'll turn my back to the wind. Alright, so we don't work hardly at all with any smoke. And so this is our honey box, and you can see they're starting to bring in a lot of nectar and starting to fill the cells with honey. So Lil, we take out that next one. This one? Yep. So I feel like this really teaches kids a lot about patience and moving slowly, and it's definitely a thing where if kids are protected with a suit, they feel a lot safer and they're willing to get their hands in there, which is really surprising to me. But they are really great at working with me and doing this. Out all of this comb and they're starting to fill it with honey. So then we'll have to add our honey super box on top in order to make more room for the bees there. Okay, and so this is a brand frame that we put in last week, and you can see how quickly they build out the wax on that frame. So you can see the worker bees are running around. Here, there's a couple of drones, but the drones will more so be in the bottom because they need to mate with the queen. There's a drone there. So you can feel free to come onto our Facebook page, the Gilmore City Bradgate School Garden Facebook page, and we're posting updates pretty much every day about things that we're seeing in the hives, and so that way you guys can learn too and see. And it's not always successful, and that's important to keep in mind too, that you're not always going to be successful at this, and bees do cost some money. And so we have written a grant for this, the America's Farmers Grow Rural Education Grant, sponsored by the Bear Fund. And so that is helping us pay for our bees here. But then let's crack open off this honey super box, Lil. And we'll show them into the brood. So this is called a queen excluder. You do not have to have one of these pieces of equipment, but it just helps to make sure that your queen isn't getting up into your honey boxes and laying eggs up there, because that's not something you want. All right, we'll pull out one of these. We took a frame out of this box to put into our observation hive. So these are what's left, and there's normally 10 frames in these bottom boxes and 9 frames in the honey supers. And they're called supers because they're above, super for above. Okay. So you can see all different stages of larva down throughout here. And so that's good. That means that there's a queen that's laying in here. And if you were just doing a little check in here, you'd really want to just close this up and say, good, there's a queen in here, and close it up and let them do their thing. If you look at this bee right here next to my hive tool, she has pollen on her legs. And so she's carrying them around in her little pollen baskets on her legs, and she'll eventually get them wiped off and put into the cells. And let's see if we can find what that looks like here. Hey, Chelsea, will you just cut us off when our 10 minutes is up? We don't really want to check the time with our and get our suits off.
Yes. Take a couple more minutes and then we'll go on to the next one.
So right in here, you can see the orange and yellow all throughout in there. That's pollen that the bees have packed away. And so when you're looking at this whole frame by itself, what are you seeing, Lily?
There's a pollen.
Okay, so right in here, we're seeing brood. And over here, we're seeing some brood, which is good. It's maybe not the best pattern. And there's a bee running around over here. She has her legs completely full of pollen, which is really neat. So you can get some tools. It's called a pollen trap, and put that on your beehive for about 3 days, and then take it off for 2, put it back on for 3 or 4. Yeah, it is. Yep. And so Lily's cleaning off a queen cell here. It could be an old one, but we just want to take that off. It's just maintenance on your hive, just to make sure that you're seeing everything that you want. So this is also an old queen cell. So we're just gonna scrape that off. So a lot of different management methods in beekeeping, and you just have to figure out what's best for you. Anything else, Lily? I didn't see eggs in here earlier, but we can pull out another. Actually, let's head over to that hive real fast and see if we can spot the queen. Let's run over here. It's kind of nice to have your hives close together.
Your sound is coming in and out again, Kelsey. All right.
The blue dot that doesn't hurt her. Oh.
Kelsey, we lost your sound, so we're going to keep watching you check the bees. And if you want to keep that window pinned, you can still keep seeing the bee checking. But we're going to try to get Anita connected one last time. We'll see if we can make this work. Anita, if you have called in on your phone, the audio may work better than doing them both through the same system. So let's try one more time. And if this doesn't work, we will connect with you after this to make a recording and send that out to everybody after the call. Anita, have you called in?
You can't, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
You can hear me.
No,
You can see me?
I don't think it's going to be a good enough connection to make it through it. So let's plan to continue to move on. And Anita, we will connect to record a video of the information that you're going to share with us from Little Steps and Beyond about reading. And we will send that out after the call. So sorry about that. All right. Our next portion of the conference is led by Lynn Jenkins, where we'll be talking about preparing for Farm to School Month amidst COVID-19 and hear from several folks working on strategy teams on the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Coalition.
Thanks, Chelsea. I am Lynn. I'm glued to this bee watching still, so I'm going to unpin that video, and then Nathan, I'll have you pull up the slides again, please. And I'm here. I'm a 5210 Community Health Coordinator through Every Step, which is a nonprofit here in Central Iowa. All right, so this next portion is going to talk a little bit more about planning for Farm to School Month, and especially with you know, all the considerations and unknowns of COVID-19. So October is both National Farm to School Month and Iowa Local Foods Day. So this is a month where we often really ramp up farm to school activities, or you know, start new ones for different school and early care sites. And you can join in lots of different ways. So again, lots of information about National Farm to School Month on the National Farm to School page, including posters that can usually be ordered. And then Iowa Local Food Day, you're going to hear about a little bit more, and that is October 14th this year, although it really can be celebrated anytime in October. One of the things that we have for you is a resource page that that Chelsea began putting together, and it continues to evolve. And Nathan, can you pull that up real quick? Can you click on the COVID-19 page?
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see if that'll do it. And you will all have access to this. I just want to show you really quickly. Also, all of the resources that we will share will also are on this page. So instead of picking and choosing and where are things located, you can also come to this. So you can see at the top, it just has some general resources, the outline, and if you have anything that you want on here to share out, resources that either specific to COVID-19 or you know, planning different kinds of learning and lessons, or you know, we're looking at all the great things on here and talking about how it will likely become just a general great resource to use in the future when we are not planning for all of the unknowns happening now. So if you just want to scroll kind of through that, you can see there's some general resources, and as you keep going down, there are procurement, and you're going to hear a little bit more about procurement today. And then if you keep going, there is more on food education. And so those are the two pieces that we are going to focus on. And some of these resources will be highlighted in the next parts of this presentation. So I just wanted to show you kind of what that looked like. Thanks, Nathan. We can go back to the slides and go ahead and go to the next one, where we're gonna ask you all, what activity are you most excited about for Farm to School Month? So there's a couple of options, and in these polls, we can only have one answer, which we know that there's lots of schools, and as we've heard, there's lots of different great things happening. But what are you most excited about? So there's taste testing, local food, and a meal or snack, a virtual farm visit, gardening, lessons about local food, or other. So you can click on that poll right in front of you. And maybe this is your first time and you don't have anything planned yet. Go ahead and click other on that. And we can kind of just see what people are excited about getting started for 2020 Farm to School Month. And click submit after you have filled out your answer. And I see some resources coming in, so thanks for sharing those. And then in just a little bit, when it looks like we have answers to that poll, Chelsea's going to share those results. And I see in the chat box, there's some great ideas there. If you have anything specific, again, that you're really excited or planning, thanks for sharing those in the chat. This is a really great way to hear from you all and for us to kind of share those ideas.
All right, last 10 seconds to get in your votes.
All right, let's see.
Okay.
Yep. So here is, and we know that there's lots of good answers in the chat there too, but lots of gardening, taste testing looks like our highest, and that's such a good way to get kids interested and exposed to new foods, and that serving local foods and meals or snacks. We know farm visits might look different, as will some of our lessons and tastings. Okay, so these next parts, we're gonna focus on local food procurement and then food education. And heard some good ideas already, but let's talk a little bit more about what resources and ideas we might have coming up for October. So next will be Tammy and Teresa to talk about local food procurement.
Hi, everyone. My name is Teresa Wimmerslag, and I'm here today with Tammy Stotts from IDOL. I'll let her talk in just a few minutes. We are co-leaders on the local food procurement strategy team, and you can see our goal is simply to increase the amount of foods that schools and early care sites are purchasing. And we measure that by the number of dollars spent by those schools and how many schools are doing that purchasing. So I'm going to do a quick screen switch, if I can find. I was doing some Googling. I'm really excited this week. I wanted to start off this procurement presentation with a video that came out this week from the Chef Ann Foundation. This video honors all the school food heroes that are busy feeding kids at this time, even though school is not in session. And it features some pictures from the Decorah School District. Food service directors across the state have been working tirelessly to make sure our kids are fed. And I've watched it probably 20 times already. So I want to share with you. I hope you enjoy it. Uh-oh.
The video is muted, Teresa. I'm having a hard time hearing it. Can you turn up the volume that's coming from the video? Still very quiet.
So no, you can't hear it, Chels?
No.
Okay. Oh,
you could put the link in the chat box.
I will put it in the chat box. But I can't drive and talk at the same time. So I will do that here in just a minute. I'm going to switch to my other slide deck so that we can get into discussions about food procurement. And where things are at with COVID-19 and how we see things rolling out this year. In this section, we're going to talk about what local food procurement looks like through that pandemic lens. The good news is there's still lots of food out there, even though it may not be appearing on school shelves or grocery store shelves, there's still food out there. And really, the rules haven't changed when it comes to procurement, with the exception of maybe some waivers to help find more ways to serve emergency food. But the same things you've been doing to procure food up to this point still apply. I like to start these conversations with a visual of the different tiers of a food system, just to get everybody all on the same page. And when we're talking about what a food system looks like, it's not an either or, it's definitely a both and understanding how to navigate between the tiers, I think is really important. Each tier has its pros and cons, but we need all of them in order to feed our kids. When we start talking about local food, most people think of farmers markets or buying direct from the farm. Now, hopefully you can see my mouse. And we just got done seeing some great pictures of school gardens. Those are all examples of really direct tier 0 and tier 1 food procurement. Early childcare sites, this is a great fit for them because of the scale that's available to them. These tiers are very transparent, and they really help connect the eater with the person who grew the food, and it may even be themselves. So let's jump out to these outer rings, the global anonymous tier and the large volume tier. This is where the vast majority of food is produced, moved, and consumed. It's also the level where schools do most of their purchasing, and it's where those commodity foods live. If you look really hard, you can find locally sourced products, but you really need to know what you're looking for, and like I said, it is kind of hard. This tier 2 is the sweet spot that I like to work in. It's that space between the anonymous food system and the small scale production. Places like food co-ops, food hubs, and mid-sized distributors are all in this level. It's also the level that's really small and fragile in Iowa. This is the level that starts to meet the volume needs that schools need, but it also it has that transparency back to the farm, so you know where that food came from. In my job with ISU Extension, I spend most of my time working with folks in this tier 2 to help them bridge that gap and scale up production. Ideally, I would like to see school sourcing from all of the tiers. Right now it seems like they're mostly on this outer ring, but if we can get them moving inside, we start to see more value to the community, to the schools, and that connection back to the things the kids are consuming. So how do you get started with farm to school? I actually teach a 3-section class on this, so I'm going to give it to you in 30 seconds. There is a resource at the bottom of this page. It goes into it a little bit more, but basically it starts with starting small. These steps look really simple, but there's a lot of intention and planning that goes into them. So you really don't want to ignore any steps or skip them if you want to have a successful farm to school program. So start small with some goals that you can achieve. Define local for your school. What does that look like? Identify products that you want to serve. And then communicate those expectations with your farmers. There are price competitive products out there. That's a common argument I hear is, well, local food's so expensive. It doesn't have to be. It's just a matter of knowing where to look. And then with all procurement for schools, your best tools are going to be the micro purchase and the informal procurement to make those purchases for your operation. I wanted to give a few examples of how schools are defining local. There's lots of different levels. When you're talking about farmers market, you might actually be calling that hyper local. It's right in your backyard. I'm from Northeast Iowa, so I give a lot of examples from my neck of the woods. Where I live, the food co-op talks about 100-mile radius, you know, farm to ISU, they're looking at the state of Iowa. The more miles you are feeding, the bigger your radius needs to be. But for the most part, when I'm working with schools, we're talking about 100 to a 200-mile radius. The next question I often get is, what foods should I start with? I've worked with the Northeast Iowa Food and Fitness Initiative for 11 years. And over our experience, these are the foods that are the easiest, also the most affordable to get started with. If you aren't ready to serve them on the main line, taste tests are the best way to get your feet wet when it comes to trying new things. You've already heard us talk about Iowa Local Food Day. That was started in 2 years ago to generate excitement for farm to school and a way to celebrate all the great food that we grow in Iowa. It is now more inclusive. It's not just for schools, but we want early care sites, colleges to register and participate that second week of October. All you have to do is serve 2 local foods for breakfast, lunch, or as a taste test. And as of yesterday, the website is open and ready for you to register. So we can start populating the new map. I'm now going to turn it over to my friend Tammy to give you more information.
Hi, I'm Tammy Stotts at the Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, and one of my roles there is the Farm to School Coordinator. And I think the timeliness of this is perfect because we're listening to everybody that's gone before us. And we started this in 2018 with a grant, and it was to help those schools that needed the additional assistance and to kind of highlight those that are doing it. And I think what Caitlin pointed out earlier from Waukee, the first year they served 1 or 2 items. You can see that growth and excitement from year 2018 to 2019. And in 2019, we had Chelsea from ISU put together, she did a summary for us, a local food report and an executive summary, and both are available on our website. But some of the highlights from that are that 11% of the school districts last year participated, serving 107,000, nearly 108,000 meals. That included K-12 as well as early care sites. 33% of those sites saw increased meal participation on that day. 91% served 2 varieties or more of local food, and 48% served 3 or more. 64% of the participating sites received positive feedback from students, staff, and families. And as we all know, trying to get good, positive comments sometimes is more challenging than negative comments. So 64% is an amazing return. And the biggest thing I think is 100% of both 2018 and 2019 participants said they plan to participate again. This is a great opportunity for us, and I think now is the time to really get started in this. There is help available. Teresa has been working on our site, but we started a site, iowalocalfoodday.org, and you can go there. 67% of participating schools used this site. It has resources, it has sample menus, we have some marketing opportunities available as well. But that site helps you navigate your way. It gives food safety information. It really is a great resource, and it does give you contact information. We're working continually to make it better and make it serve everyone's needs. So that is part of what the coalition is doing, is to enhance that site and make it better and offer more things that you need to get started. As I said, we do have marketing information as well. So we have banners, posters, stickers. I believe 99% or maybe 91, but a very high percentage of the schools that participated in Local Food Day market it. And as a result, you saw some of those increases in participation rate for that day. Again, Jen mentioned this earlier as well, but COVID is changing the way we do things, and it's changing from day to day. So it is hard for us to know what that will look like. As Teresa just stated, most things are the same. There are waivers, there are extensions, there's bulk food opportunities, and Department of Ed Nutrition Bureau has that information posted on their site. and we will be updating that as things change. So I think it's best to just be aware of those sites and those resources that are provided and check with them often. And if you have questions, be sure and reach out. So for finding food, Teresa talked about some of the ways to find food, and there's just a few more that I want to share. We do have a farm to school directory. We've had it for years, but we've recently changed it to be on the Department of Ag's website. And I think it's a little easier to navigate. It will be easier for us to find information because it's not a third-party source. And it does give you the opportunity to request bid quotes, and it also gives growers the opportunity to list products they have. Every year it does need to be updated with new information so the information is current. There's only a few growers listed now, and that is going to be a big push of mine, is to really get reach out to some growers and to get more people listed on that site so it's easier for you to source things. What we've seen the last couple of years, our food hubs are the #1 source used for local foods for Local Food Day. Food hubs are amazing. They aggregate product from all across the state. They have a network, they communicate, they transport food between hubs. They really, I've heard again and again with Farm to Table and some of the different food hubs that if you are looking for a product and you reach out to them, they are most of the time able to find it for you. We've done the last couple of years, we've had some initiatives for food hubs where we've given them delivery for delivering specialty crops to schools. So some of that is available to help those food hubs get this product to you. So I would certainly encourage you to reach out, not just for Food Day, Local Food Day, but any day, because they really do have a lot of products available. And if you haven't tried them, you should give them a try. We also have USDA AMS, shows the Iowa Farm to School Local Purchase Report. This is being done by USDA, and it shows what Iowa schools are purchasing and the price they're paying. It shows the form it's being purchased in. And I will say that very few schools are reporting right now. It is voluntary. We really hope to expand the number of schools reporting, because as we do that, it's going to be a better reflection of what's really happening. So if you are a school or an early care site or university, please get on there and report. It's very, very simple. It's just a monthly update. And I can give you contact information for that. We also use this for growers to have them take a look at what's available, or what schools want, what schools are buying. That's a good resource for them in planning what they want to grow the next year. And then we also have a statewide database that's going to be available here soon, and it will offer, it will be a website where farmers, food hubs, food banks, schools, everyone can use this. Growers will put available produce in the database, and then you can get a login, you sign in, and you can go see what's available out there. If you're looking for something particular, this database will drop food off after 5 days, assuming it's not fresh, or if someone claims the product. It will be between the food or the grower and the buyer to make delivery arrangements. But I think it has a lot of potential. It's currently a site being used by Iowa Valley RC&D, and they're expanding it to be a statewide directory or database, and that will be available soon, and we will send out information when that does become available. But be sure and watch for that, because I think that has huge potential for people seeking food as well.
Thanks, Tammy. I have a few more resources that I want to put out there as places where you can look to see if there are farms around you that are growing food or have food available. I also want to introduce a term that might be new to some of you. Did you know that Iowa has a network of regional food system working groups? These are groups of counties that are working together on food system work, and most of them have a local food coordinator. That local food coordinator could be a huge ally for you in helping to connect and find growers in your area. Many of the food coordinators help at farmers markets. Some of them have farm to school in their job description. Some of them put together the Buy Fresh, Buy Local directories or the local food directories for your area. So those would be people you'd want to get to know, and I've tried to mark them with red dots on the map. Our Iowa State Extension Farm Food and Enterprise Development team has all of these links and resources on their page. They're also included in that handout that Lynn showed us earlier, where you can find all of these links and search for farms near you. Don't forget about your school gardens. We know they're great places and great experiences for kids, but you can also purchase food from your school garden. It helps provide income for that garden to grow more every year. And it's one of those things that can help sustain your program. You know, I love food hubs. It's part of my job. So I'm just gonna give them one more plug. Last year for Iowa Local Food Day, over half of the counties that participated used a food hub to procure the food for their event. So make sure you check out where those food hubs are and if that's something that they can help you with. Finally, the last few slides, I just wanted to give you some inspiration and some ideas when we start talking about procurement. You know, ideally, I would love to see local food on all sorts of meal trays, but I know it's also hard to get started. So, you know, taste tests are a great way to do that. Don't forget about exploration and art projects with food, helping kids understand and connect to things, and even easy classroom cooking activities are ways to get kids engaged in trying something new. We've seen lots of school garden pictures today, and want to make sure that to remind you of those opportunities, just take kids out to the school garden to have that experience. Maybe if you don't have a school garden, there's a community garden, or even think about touring a farm or having a farm come visit. Just make sure that you watch out for the killer squash and make sure that they don't get you and jump out. This is my favorite picture of all the beautiful lunch trays that feature local products. I want to call out the blue tray in the upper corner. Those are all local products. Everything from the potatoes from the school garden to the homemade buns, the coleslaw is local. Everything on that tray is 100%. That school didn't start at that level. They worked to get to that point, but it's definitely something that can be achieved. As a farm partner on a cattle farm, the local burgers that are grilled by the cattlemen are my personal favorite. I want to give a quick mention of how things have changed recently with the COVID epidemic. You know, how we're distributing local foods has definitely changed as well. Remember, the food is still out there. It may take a little bit more creativity to think about what that looks like. How will you incorporate it into your meals? Here are some pictures of some of the schools in Northeast Iowa that are continuing to source local products. Amazingly, they're actually buying more now than they were when school was in session. They recognize the importance of making sure that those businesses are still supported. Here we see salad greens being served for the grab-and-go salads. This wall of dairy, the Decorah School District packs weekly food boxes for their students. So they get, in addition to fluid milk, they're also getting lots of dairy, yogurt, and cheese curds. And again, they don't get, in Decorah, they don't get individual serving sizes. They get a pound of lettuce to help meet their vegetable requirements. One more plug. Chelsea, maybe I'll just turn this over to you. Otherwise, I don't think I'll do it justice. This is your baby.
Sure, I'll share about this. I know lots of folks from different early care sites and school districts are participating in this year's Iowa Farm to Summer campaign. So this is our third annual campaign that we've launched, and the theme this year is Crunch into Cucumbers. So we've provided mini grants and technical assistance and marketing materials in the form of posters and banners to 62 sites across the state this year. And the purpose of this is to bring local food into school meal programs, bring local food education into school meal programs to really make the mealtime experience engaging and fun and something that kids and families want to continue to return to. And then also really support local farmers during the summer months when a lot of our local food is growing, and has really led to some school districts and early care sites and other community partners figuring out the procurement process and continuing that outside of the summertime. So there's more information about this on our website, and we are in the process of, soon we'll be wrapping up the campaign for this year, but this is an annual event, so hope you will consider participating next year.
Well, Chelsea, that wraps it up for us. If there's time for questions, we can take a few. Otherwise, we can keep moving.
Yeah, if there are any immediate questions, let's put those in the chat box. And we will have Lynn Jenkins and Susie Wilson pick it back up.
Yeah, we'll have Nathan share those slides again, and then Susie is going to talk some more about food education.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Wilson from the Iowa Department of Public Health, and I coordinate one of our SNAP Ed programs called Pick a Better Snack. And I'm speaking today as one of the co-chairs of the Food Education Strategy Team, and I chair this team along with Lynn Jenkins. Nathan talked at the beginning of our webinar about the goals of each strategy team, and you can see our goal here again on the slide. We do have several ways we're trying to accomplish that. Our hope is that we would increase the number of schools and early care sites that incorporate farm to school into policies, whether that's a school wellness policy or it could even be a school building policy or any policies at a center or home. That more gardens would be used on site for culturally relevant and responsive education, that other food education experiences would be offered during meal times, and also to incorporate culturally relevant food education into curriculum. So in the few meetings that we've had with our strategy team, we've started this discussion about culturally responsive food education, and we're using that term interchangeably, culturally responsive and culturally relevant. We're still actually coming to consensus on what terminology we think is best to represent our work. There's lots of different words out there being used. We think we're going to go with culturally responsive. So we've just had discussions over what does that mean, and these were some of the ideas presented. They are by no means a formal definition of culturally responsive food education, but they're just some ideas that have been shared, and then our plan is to kind of formulate a more official definition. But just looking at this slide, you can see some of the ideas that have come up is that this type of food education would be anti-bias, anti-racist, affordable, accessible, and inclusive. It empowers or taps into knowledge and experience of children, prior knowledge and experience. It's a diverse education and it's relevant. It understands and incorporates different cultures and what's important in each culture. It includes different ways that cultures eat food and in their families or in their communities. It encompasses the nutrition of food. That might be what you think of initially when you think of food education, but it's more than just the nutrition aspect. It also includes the food system. It does engage all audiences with positive interaction, information, and diverse experiences, and it's adaptable and explores unfamiliar foods. So we've had fun talking about this and sharing resources, and we're putting together quite a nice list of resources that we want to dig into further. So during my time here today, I just wanted to share some examples of our nutrition educators from the Pick a Better Snack program, what they are doing during this pandemic time related to farm to school, along with providing grant funding to administer the Pick a Better Snack program, which is in classroom nutrition education for grades K through 3 in low income schools. We also provide funding for farm to school activities. So I have a few slides here to share from our grantees. The first one comes out of Cedar Rapids. And yeah, thank you for advancing the slides. I forget that. I need to let you know that. So Melissa Blair is with Lynn County Extension and a Pick a Better Snack coordinator, and they handed out seed starters to grow spinach along with some nutrition education materials, and these were handed out at grab and go meal sites. That's become a good venue, I guess, to reach our target audience. They have also been able, believe it or not, to provide some in-person garden-based lessons this summer. Very few of our Pick a Better Snack and Farm to School programs have students on site this summer, but they do have a few meal sites where kids are attending. They're at 50% capacity and they're practicing social distancing. They do a lot of hand washing and they disinfect surfaces, you know, after they're being used, and they don't share any supplies, but they are able to continue with some education. They are also able to bring students and their families on site to help tend to the gardens at the schools. So they recruited these families at the end of the school year on the Zoom meetings, and then they set up what they call a garden guardian system that allows families to sign up for a week to tend to the garden, and families are given access to the storage shed on site, and then families disinfect anything they touch, and they can visit the garden and take home the harvest. So that's pretty good that they're able to continue at this time. She also shared some resources with me. If you want to advance to the next slide. These are signs that they're using with their gardens, and they found these at the University of Wisconsin Extension site, and they are available in several different languages that you see on the slide. So they're using those at their garden sites to communicate the health measures that are in place right now. So the next slide, if you want to advance, comes from Fort Dodge Community School District, and Eric Lortz, our nutrition education educator there, partnered with Butler Elementary in the school district to distribute lettuce seeds at their grab-and-go meal sites in May. And they also planted these seeds in their school garden, and then they had instructions for how families could plant those at home. The next slide is from Council Bluffs, and again, they were using the grab-and-go sites to reach families and handed out tastings. They were able to purchase pre-packaged spinach. They didn't have to do the package it themselves, is my understanding. It wasn't local spinach in this case, but in May they distributed the spinach along with a nutrition education piece. Now in June, this month, they are doing the same thing with local strawberries. So that's how they're incorporating their farm to school work there. And then they plan to, I think, maybe do sugar snap peas in July with the same type of idea. So that's been working for them. And the next slide is from Mount Pleasant, and video and students during this time. So this is Sadie Martin with Henry County Extension, and she also works with the Pick a Better Snack program. She's done a number of different videos on different topics. This one is farm to school related. She taught folks how to build kind of a unique container garden, because it just takes a bag of potting soil that she cut open the top and planted, but she put that bag on a lid of a storage container so that she could move it around easily, and then she could put that lid on the over the bag if she wanted to protect it from small animals, or just if she wanted to control how much water it was getting and all that. So I thought that was pretty unique. And then she posts these videos. They have a channel for Henry County Extension on YouTube. If you want to look them up, you can find this video as well as other videos she's done. One, she did a herb garden in a mason jar. So a lot of do-it-yourself type ideas is what she's sharing. And then lastly, if you want to advance to the next slide, this comes out of Waterloo, and this is a photograph of a video that Grace Trini and Sarah Steinmeier did with Black Hawk County Public Health. And when schools were closed this spring, they created videos of themselves working and maintaining the gardens and planting them so that they could share with the students to pass along, share with the teachers to pass along to the students. And they did garden education and talked about foods that grow in Iowa. And then they also distributed at meal sites as well. They gave out actual plant starts, and they partnered with Seed Savers and Decorah to get those plant starts. And then the local library even handed out plant starts in a Grow Another Row initiative so that people could expand their garden and donate to the local food bank. And so in Waterloo, they're keeping their gardens going this summer. They do have to schedule times with the building custodians and administration. Realize Sarah and Grace aren't school district employees, but county public health. So they have to have a really good partnership with the school to be able to have access to get on site. And they also partner closely with Green Iowa AmeriCorps in maintaining their gardens. So those were just some of the ways that our grant recipients have been able to continue the farm to school work. So I think it's fun to see. It's been a time for people to be creative, to see what they can get done. And the planning continues, you know, for this fall. So thank you for allowing me to share.
Awesome. Thank you, Susie and Lynn, and big thanks to Teresa and Tammy as well. Again, last few minutes here, if there are any questions that folks want to share aloud, we have a couple minutes here to take those. And we'll just move through the last couple of pieces.
Hey, Chelsea.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to Alicia at Loving Hands Daycare and Preschool for being our first Iowa Local Food Day registration for.
Wow, that's awesome. Shout out to Alicia. Oh yeah, I like the little response hands.
Yeah.
That's great. Yes. So there's still several months before Farm to School month happens, and a couple months before maybe we're back to school. And we hope that these resources can really get you and your teams energized and useful information for making these plans come to life. Stay tuned for a second Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Virtual Conference, which we'll be hosting right before Farm to School month on September 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. So that's another Friday in the month of September. And we would love to hear, more specific ideas for things that you want to talk about. We will try out some different technology options to get into smaller group discussions. We can continue to share resources and brainstorm farm to school activities, and we'll have a better idea of what October will look like, definitely by September. On the next slide is our final thank you for joining us today. And we really want to stay connected with you all. So after this call ends here in the next couple of minutes, you'll be receiving via email a virtual conference evaluation form. So that's a great place to share specific ideas, resource requests. If you didn't have any, if there were some questions that were not answered during our call today, please submit them in that, and we will really use your feedback and input to continue to plan events and other work of the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Coalition. Also within these slides, you can connect to our website, join our listserv for our weekly newsletters, and email us. And that email needs to be updated.
Hey,
Chelsea, this is Tammy. I just wanted to say, I did see it just pop up in the chat, but FFAs, we didn't talk about that earlier. We did talk about school gardens, but be sure and consider your FFA chapter as well. We do have a project going on right now. I know Waukee's part of that. And FFAs are a great resource to get some local foods. So don't be afraid to consider working with them as well.
And Chelsea, there was a question specifically about the crunching of cucumbers, and if there's still information or downloadable supplies available, even if they can't order the kits.
Yes. Yes. So if you go onto, and we will make sure to share the link to this, if you go to the Iowa Farm to School and Early Care Coalition website, you can click and link to all of the information about the Crunch Into Cucumbers campaign. And on there are great virtual learning resources, some videos, recipes that you can direct families or community partners to. We also have a Crunch Into Cucumbers coloring page and some best practices and tips for virtual taste tests which is a really cool model that a lot of sites have been doing, as grab-and-go meals are happening right now over in-person meals. So make sure that link is shared as well. If you are getting DHS credit for the call, before exiting here, please be sure to enter into the chat box, sign out #DHS with your name, and Krista will follow up with you and your certificate pretty soon. Anything else from anyone? All right.
Thanks, Chelsea. Yeah, we have some great ideas in the chat, and like Chelsea has said, those will be collected and all those resources will be shared. So really good to hear from everyone out there.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. More information coming from us soon. Hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.